Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Let's start this video with the story about how one bad manager turned a simple cash handling job into a money explosion, literally. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with the turned on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. Manager told me to just fill the box, so I did, with $165,000. Years ago, I used to work the night shift at a cash center, the kind of place where all the security trucks would roll in after a long day of collecting money from businesses. Our job was to open up the sealed packages, credit the client's accounts, and bundle the cash to be sent out again to banks and ATMs. The workflow was fast-paced but efficient, and if you finished your work early, it was an unwritten rule that you could just leave early too. Nobody abused it, we just worked hard and got out when we were done. That system worked beautifully, until one night a new manager showed up. Let's call him Paul. Paul had that chip-on-the-shoulder energy you get with a lot of new hires who are desperate to prove themselves. You know the type, buttoned-up shirt, just a little too stiff, voice a little too loud, eyes scanning the floor for someone to manage. Well, on this particular night, I had finished all my usual duties and was about to clock out when Paul stopped me. "Hey, we need help with the ATM prep section," he said, gesturing to the back of the warehouse where the cash boxes for the ATMs were being loaded. "You're staying." Now, I'd never worked that part of the process before. It wasn't my department. Still, being a team player, I figured I'd lend a hand. I walked over and asked the obvious question, how much cash do we put in each box? Paul didn't even look up from his clipboard. "Just put the cash in the box," he barked. "It's not rocket science." Not exactly the most helpful instructions, but okay, you're the boss. So I started packing the boxes. There was no clear labeling, no cheat sheet, no list of denominations, just stacks and stacks of notes and empty metal cases. So I did exactly what he told me. I filled the boxes with cash. When one got full, I pressed the money down and kept going. When it was almost overflowing, I used my body weight to compress it further. At one point, I was basically kneeling on the box just to get it shut. I jammed every last note in there, making sure it was sealed tight. Mission accomplished, right? Wrong. About 20 minutes later, I noticed things were getting tense. People were rushing around, checking boxes, whispering urgently to each other. One of the team leads, pale as a ghost, shouted something about a $65,000 shortfall. You could feel the panic in the air. Missing that much money in a place like this? That's the kind of thing that launches investigations and audits. The last thing anyone wanted was to be the person responsible for a missing cash bundle. Cue the full recount. Every box had to be reopened and the money counted by hand. When they finally opened the one I had packed, it practically exploded. Cash burst out like confetti from a party popper. I mean, it rained money. People actually gasped. One of the girls working the ATM section was so stunned, she laughed and said, "I didn't even think you could fit that much in one of those." Turns out each box was only supposed to contain 100,000. The one I packed, it had nearly 165,000 stuffed into it. And the best part, that was the exact amount they thought was missing. I didn't get scolded. I didn't even get an apology from Paul. He just gave me a look, part sheepish, part annoyed, and said nothing. Once they repacked the boxes properly and confirmed everything was accounted for, I was told I could head home. I never got asked to help in that department again, which honestly suited me just fine. That night taught me a lot about management, specifically how not to do it. Had Paul just taken 30 seconds to explain the process properly, all that drama could have been avoided. But instead of respecting the experience of the staff already there, he went for the power move, and it backfired. Hard. From that point on, I kept my head down, did my job, and let the people who actually knew how things worked handle their own departments. I'm flabbergasted that a company that handles that much cash doesn't have stricter rules about who can do what. And our second story. She tried to muscle into my parking space. My girlfriend blew her a kiss goodbye. I was at my local grocery store earlier today, and it was absolutely packed. We've got a minor sporting event coming up this weekend, and that always seems to bring out the masses. The parking lot was completely full, every space taken, cars slowly stalking shoppers with carts like predators looking for the first sign of movement toward a trunk. I'd finished shopping, loaded my groceries into the back of my Jeep, and like the decent citizen I try to be, I returned my car to the front of the store instead of just leaving it loose. I made my way back to the car, hopped in, and started her up. I put it in reverse and did a quick glance over my left shoulder, then focused on the right. Since it was a one-way parking lot lane, all the cars were supposed to be coming from the left. Supposed to be. That's when I caught a flash of blue out of the corner of my eye. A blue SUV was barreling up the lane from the wrong direction. I slammed on the brakes and sat there for a second, stunned, watching as the driver, a younger woman with long dreads, whipped the SUV around in a full U-turn at the front of the store. Apparently, she'd spotted me getting ready to leave and decided she was going to claim my spot. Rules be damned. She pulled into my lane, nose pointed toward me, right blinker flashing like she was entitled to the space. The problem was her SUV was still halfway out in the two-way area in front of the store, the part where people are trying to return carts, parents are corralling kids, and folks are walking to and from their vehicles. Her oversized vehicle was blocking everyone. I had a choice to make. I could have just left, let her win, and moved on with my day, but then I remembered I had nowhere to go, so instead of reversing, I slowly inched my Jeep back into the spot. Not all the way, but just enough so I was no longer preparing to pull out. But crucially, I left my reverse lights on. She honked once, twice. I just stared straight ahead, completely unbothered. Then the inevitable happened. Her SUV was creating such a jam at the front of the store that other drivers started honking at her. She was forced to move, begrudgingly, driving down my lane and passing by my Jeep. She gave me a look that could curdle milk, but I just kept pretending not to notice. As soon as she passed, I resumed reversing, just in time for a red sedan, the one that had been honking from behind her, to pull in and take my spot. Blue SUV wasn't done, though, not by a long shot. She immediately looped around the lot, hoping to beat the red sedan and take the spot she'd claimed by divine right or sheer audacity. But too late. The red car had already slipped in. I made a point of accelerating out of the space with purpose, pulling into the main drive lane in front of the store just as red sedan was settling in. But I wasn't done either. I turned left, cutting across slightly at an angle, and came to a stop directly in the blue SUV's path. She was stuck. She couldn't turn in, couldn't move forward. I nudged my girlfriend and told her, act cool and light a smoke. She didn't hesitate. With a sly smile, she pulled out a cigarette, lit it casually, and sat back like we had all the time in the world. Blue SUV was trapped, and she was livid. From inside her car, I could see her yelling and gesturing, clearly trying to curse us out while deciding what to do. After a few seconds, she gave up and tried to reverse out so she could go around us. The moment she did, I slowly pulled forward and exited the lot like nothing had happened. As we drove away, my girlfriend leaned out the window just enough to blow her a kiss. Petty? Maybe. But after someone tries to claim your spot by breaking all the rules and then has the audacity to honk at you, I'd call it poetic justice with a kiss goodbye. And our last story. She said, move your car or accept the consequences. I accepted, and she lost everything. Back when my husband and I were in our mid-20s, we bought our first house. Nothing fancy, just a modest semi with a decent little garden, a tight driveway, and enough room to start our life with our infant daughter. We moved in excited, if not a little overwhelmed, and I immediately made it a point to meet the neighbors. Most were lovely, welcoming, warm, helpful. But then there was her. Let's call her Tammy, although around the neighborhood she was known not so affectionately as Big Bad Tammy. Tammy had lived on the street for 3 years by then and had earned her reputation. She was controlling, manipulative, and loud. She ran a daycare out of her house, which would have been fine if not for the frequent reports from neighbors of her screaming at the kids and leaving them outside unsupervised. But no one ever officially reported her. Why? Because her boyfriend, let's call him Todd, was a police officer. Neighbors were scared of retaliation. The rumor was she'd bragged about using him to keep people in line. Our house had a driveway just wide enough for one car, but we could squeeze in two if one blocked the other. Parking on the street was tight, and our curb had double yellows. Not ideal. During a week of essential roof work, scaffolding and skip took over our driveway, so we parked in the street. My husband left his car outside Tammy's house, not blocking her, not on her lawn, just the street. Big mistake. The next morning, she stormed out like she was charging a battlefield, screaming at my husband that his antisocial parking was going to get his car towed, scratched, or worse. My husband, calm as ever, explained it was a public road and she had no authority to claim the curb. Tammy was shrill, so loud several neighbors came out to watch. I came out too, baby on my hip, just in time to hear her point at me and scream, "You'll have social services on you if you don't F off. I'll scratch you right up." I froze. She was completely unhinged. And there was Todd standing in the doorway, arms crossed, doing nothing. My husband said, "We're calling the police." That's when Tammy lost it completely. "Call them! I effing dare you! He's a cop. He'll effing sort you out. You won't know what hit you." Todd just nodded. Actually nodded and said, "Move your car or accept the consequences. You call the police, it won't get you anywhere." Well, guess what? I pulled out my phone and dialed 101, the UK's non-emergency police line, on speaker in front of both of them. Their faces changed instantly. Tammy's mouth dropped open like a cartoon. Todd grabbed her arm and dragged her inside, slamming the door. That was the last time either of them said a word to us. The fallout? Todd was suspended pending investigation after multiple neighbors came forward with similar stories. He was eventually demoted to an administrative role. No more badge, no more swagger. Tammy received a formal warning for public disorder. More importantly, her daycare was shut down after a series of complaints. She lost her license to care for children permanently. Their house went up for sale a few months later. Problem is, Tammy had made a bunch of illegal renovations without permits, converting a garage into a playroom, knocking down a supporting wall. You name it. The property was undervalued, they're in negative equity. All of this over a single parking spot on a public road. I guess when you try to intimidate your neighbors, lie about the law, and scream at children in your care, karma doesn't just knock, it parks in front of your house and doesn't move. You know, maybe you were lucky. Bad neighbors can be a real nightmare, and the good guys don't always win, especially when one is the police. Glad it worked for you, though. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.